Tucked away in a corner of the E.H. Little Library lies a collection of leather-bound histories. Each of the dozens of pieces in the Smith Rare Book Room comes with its own unique story. We talked to Sharon Bird, Davidson's Special Collections Outreach Librarian, about some of the more interesting pieces she's encountered in her time here. One that stands out to her is the Diderot Encyclopédie collection. This set of 35 volumes was edited by Denis Diderot and was published in 1751. These books were intended to change the way people think, and were particularly notable for challenging religious authority and for being the first encyclopedia describing the mechanical arts. As interesting as the encyclopedias alone are, Davidson's copy is remarkable because it is a first edition of the series, and nobody knows exactly who or where they came from. We asked Sharon Bird for some more details about the story of Davidson's encyclopédie.
We had a French professor who was here from 1926, came in 1926, and he was here till about 1960. His name was George Watts. And in 1956, March of 1956, he wrote an article for a magazine called the South Atlantic Bulletin about what he called Davidson's French folios. And one of the things that he commented on was our original Paris edition of Diderot and d'Alembert's Encyclopédie du Dictionnaire raisonné, this 35-volume French thing. 35 volumes counting all the supplements. Here's what he says about it. When I came to the college, remember in 1926, they lay on the basement floor of the old library building. The original library, physically and collection, the original library on campus was a combination of the U Society materials and the Phi Society. They had their own libraries. They combined them. If you've seen book plates in the books that have, in the very old ones, that will say Union Library, the physical materials were the Union Library. But where did they sit? They sat in what they called the Library Hall in the old Chambers building. So not the one that's there now, the one that burned. So he's talking about that when he says the old library. They lay on the basement floor of the old library building, uncatalogued and in danger of destruction by seeping water or leaking pipes. The only reference that's been found in them is in the handwritten catalog of the college's holdings of 1892 to 94. We believe that they were purchased in Paris in the late 18th century and brought to some southern port, perhaps Charleston, by a wealthy student or merchant. They were in the library of a distinguished family until they were presented to the college by some unrecorded alumnus or friend. So there's a lot of ifs, how did we get them, right?
So we don't currently know where the books came from, but Sharon has some theories about their origins. At one point, Sharon thought she'd found a possible answer when she noticed a book plate behind the Union Library label. However, it just turned out to be another Union Library label. Another idea involves a related set of books who belong to a French minister. They are bound in the same way as the encyclopedia volumes, so there's a chance these also belong to him, but there's no way to know. One volume even has a name written in it, but Sharon couldn't find who it referred to and compared it to finding John Smith in a book. All of these are fascinating stories, and could probably each be made into their own documentaries, but there was one in particular we found more interesting than the rest. We'll let Sharon tell it herself.
One student one day suggested that maybe Peter Stewart Ney brought them over when he escaped from France. The Davidson seal, the Île de Lux Ubi Orta seal, was created by a gentleman named Peter Stewart Ney. Peter Stewart Ney was a French professor in this area, Rowan County, Mecklenburg County, Davie County. It was all sort of the same thing for a while, or overlapped. He was a French professor, and he would, in our previous history professor and library director's way of phrasing it, when he was in his cups, i.e. drunk, he would say that he was Marshal Ney, Napoleon's marshal. And the story was that he had been sneaked out of the country. He was put before a firing squad and shot, if you know that he didn't do well with the king and the king had him executed. But the story was that his cronies got to be the guys in the firing squad, put blanks in the guns. He wasn't really executed. They spirited him out of the country, got him to here, and he is now Peter Stewart Ney teaching French in Mecklenburg and Rowan and Davie counties. And that when he was drunk, he would say he was, and when he was sober, he would say no, he wasn't, after all. So there's this whole sort of conspiracy theory on Peter Stewart Ney and Marshal Ney. But we know Peter Stewart Ney designed our seal. That's a fact. There is no fact on whether he was Marshal Ney or not.
The Diderot encyclopedias remain a mystery, and we may never know how they came into Davidson's hands. But we do know we're lucky to have them.